I think we need new leadership. There are huge global challenges in terms of inflation, in terms of pressure on interest rates, obviously the energy crisis with Russia's aggression against Ukraine. In a time of uncertainty, we need solid leadership. And I'm afraid, I'm very sorry to say, that has been distinctly lacking from Downing Street in the last several weeks.
Henry Smith, let's just start with a very straightforward question. How do you feel this morning?
Well, I couldn't support the government last night in the House of Commons. I wasn't prepared to go against an election pledge I stood on not to reintroduce fracking. I thought that was the wrong thing to do, and therefore I couldn't support the government. And I think some of the scenes we saw in the House of Commons yesterday evening mean that in a time of global challenges, we now need in the UK proper leadership. Unfortunately, I feel the Prime Minister isn't delivering that, not just with her budget statements, but with some of the other calls as well. And the essential removing of the Home Secretary, somebody who was really trying to get a grip with the illegal migrant problem, is something I'm deeply concerned about.
Okay, let's pick through some of those issues just for a moment. Was your understanding that last night was a confidence vote?
Yes, I was told before the vote that if I voted against or if I didn't show up for the vote, that would be seen as a confidence issue and that I would lose the Conservative Party whip.
Which is something you were happy to do. So at least you were clear on that, despite the confusion in the Commons chamber.
That was the very clear message throughout the day.
And then on the subject of Suella Braverman, who you supported to become leader, what is your understanding of why she went? Is it really just because she sent an email to someone she shouldn't?
Well, I think the breach was a very minor and technical one, and I think in normal circumstances, an apology would cover that off. I'm confident, I'm sure that sort of situation has happened many times before, perhaps somebody sending an email from the wrong phone. It really, I don't think, was an issue that should remove a Secretary of State. So I feel that it may have well been an excuse of Downing Street to dispense with a Home Secretary who maybe increasingly had different views from the Prime Minister.
Okay, then to the more pertinent point, you put all that together, chaos in the House of Commons on a vote, chaos in the Cabinet as the Home Secretary's sacked apparently over for sending an email. The Chief Whip is the Chief Whip, has resigned, has unresigned. Put all that together, is it time today, Thursday morning, for the Liz Truss to resign?
I think we need new leadership. There are huge global challenges in terms of inflation, in terms of pressure on interest rates, obviously the energy crisis with Russia's aggression against Ukraine. In a time of uncertainty, we need solid leadership. And I'm afraid, I'm very sorry to say, that has been distinctly lacking from Downing Street in the last several weeks.
Do you think, what's the sort of timescale on this? Because at various points people have said, time is running out, last chance saloon, wait till October the 31st. It feels like the last 24 hours have, every part of the government machine seems to have collapsed. Would you like to see Liz Truss come forward today and say that she's quitting?
I think she should do the honourable thing and say that her premiership has made the wrong calls, not just once or twice, but consistently since coming into office almost 2 months ago, and that now it's time for strong leadership to come back to this country. The sort of strong leadership we did actually see under Boris Johnson's administration in terms of the response to COVID, in terms of getting Brexit delivered, the vaccine rollout, our strong stance against Russia in terms of their invasion of Ukraine. We need that sort of global leadership back again for the sake of our country in a time of immense economic challenge for the world.
Liz Truss has been around for a long time in the cabinet for 10 years. Have you been surprised by, let's be blunt, by just how bad she's been?
I've been a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee for the past 2.5 years, so I saw her in action scrutinising her when she was Foreign Secretary, and I have to say, I did fear that she may be out of her depth as Prime Minister.
So maybe you were slightly less surprised having seen him up close. Final question, I suppose, then is the question of what comes next. Who would you like to see replace Liz Truss? And who realistically do you think it might be? Does there need to be a contest? Do the members need to be involved? What happens in the coming days, from your perspective?
Well, I think events will probably gain momentum in the coming hours and days. And I think Sir Graham Brady, who is the chair of the 1922 committee, almost the sort of the shop steward of Conservative MPs, has said that if the number of calls for the Prime Minister to step aside reaches more than half of the parliamentary party, then those events will be inevitable. I think members should be involved as much as possible in choosing the leader, but as you have pointed out and many others, time is pressing and we can't delay.
And so, who would you like to see if Graham Brady came to you and said, "Look, Henry, I don't know what to do. You choose the leader." Henry Smith, who would you like to see take over from Liz Truss?
Well, I very much like Sir Graham. He's a good friend of mine, but I doubt he'd be coming to me for my counsel on who should be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Look, we've got some excellent talent within the Conservative Party. And one of the things that really frustrates me, actually, is if you look across the benches at the Labour opposition, they're not having to do or propose anything. They're getting a huge poll lead just because the Conservative Party are tearing themselves apart. I would struggle to tell you what a Labour policy is, and that's deeply concerning. So that's why we need leadership back, and we need somebody with the talent and experience to be able to lead the party and, more importantly, the country through these challenging times.
One of your colleagues, Charles Walker, has said this week, and actually several others as well, that this is now an existential crisis of the Conservative Party. The prospect of the Tory Party winning the next election is absurd. This is a question of sort of getting the country back on an even keel, steadying the ship, and maybe preventing a sort of 1997 style wipeout. Do you feel like that now?
It is an existential threat, of course it is. But I entered politics and public life not just to be sort of some sort of cheerleader solely for my party. I agree with most of the policies that my party proposes, but what I'm most concerned about is that we have a united Britain going forward that is confident in the world, that can meet the global challenges that we see economically and in terms of the aggression we see from Russia and increasingly China as well. The world needs Britain, but Britain can't be there leading unless we have strong leadership at home. So that is my primary concern. The machinations of the Conservative Party really have to be secondary to that, but we are the clear majority in Parliament, and therefore we have to get real and start delivering, because otherwise we'll be failing in our duty, and that will be an existential threat not just to the party, but to the future of the UK as a global leader.
Henry Smith, really good to speak to you. Thank you for joining us on Times Radio.